Good morning. My name is Eric Hepburn. My pronouns are he, him, and I am honored to serve as your pulpiteer. Please join me in reciting the words to light our chalice. We light this flame to remind us love is the center. As we grow and connect, mature and deepen, love remains the center. When the light of truth burns all else away, love remains. Let us greet this day in song. Our opening hymn is We Are, number 1051 in the Teal hymnal, and we will sing the whole thing through one time. The lyrics will be projected. Please rise in body or spirit as you're able. You know, we find joy in unexpected corners. Candace is out this week, and Mr. Spoon is going to be spending some time with the kids. We don't have a Wonder Box this week, but I would like to invite you to join me in singing the children out, and all children and youth wishing to go out to the Little House for youth fellowship today are welcome to join Mr. Spoon in the back, and everyone else, please join me in singing them out. Sometimes we're carrying something on our heart that prevents us from being fully present. Here in this community, our sharing of these things with one another is medicine, is healing. So Like all good medicine, it must be concentrated and potent, so I invite you to aim at 2 to 3 strong sentences. So if you're carrying a joy or a sorrow or both on your heart this morning, I invite you to raise your hand for the microphone. Thank you for sharing. And for all that remains unspoken, the love of this community is with you. And now, as our anthem this morning, Bob Marley and the Wailers performing Redemption Song.
I invite you into a place of deeper stillness and reflection from this reading from Karl Marx's Critique of the Gotha Program. After labor has become not only a means of life, but life's prime want, after the productive forces have also increased with the all-around development of the individual, and all the springs of cooperative wealth flow more abundantly, only then can society inscribe on its banners, from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs.
I have to do the journalistic integrity thing first, which is I have to issue a correction. 2 weeks ago, when we were talking about the history of Article 2 at the UUA, I claimed that they forgot to put in a timer. And that was an incorrect statement, and I learned better in my research, and I wanted to share that correct information with you. The UUA's bylaws mandate that Article 2, which is the source of this and the old 7 principles, be reviewed every 15 years. It has been revised numerous times over the history of the UUA, and prior to the new 2024 revision, it was last revised in 1987. So please gratefully accept my correction about my misstatement. I will try and correct those when they come to my attention. Now, last week we used quantum physics to attempt to more deeply interrogate this idea of interdependence. Now, for better or worse, when I produce my podcast every week, I force myself to go listen to my own sermons. And after this week, I thought I owed you an apology for last week. Not that there weren't some interesting ideas and moments in there, but I buried the lead instead of centering it. And so let me center it for you right now. Why did I end up down the weird science intersection with mysticism rabbit hole? As I suggested, there is a Captain Obvious version of the interdependence, which we all kind of get, right? Like we're part of an ecology, right? And if we don't do our part in the ecology, then all of those interweaving parts don't work together and none of us get our needs met, right? And so there's this way in which we have to participate in the emotional ecology of our communities. There's this way that we have to participate in the ecological aspects of this world we live in. There's a political economy and an economy at place in which our participation matters deeply, right? There's all these ways that we accept that we're interconnected. What I was trying to get at last week is it does in fact go deeper than that. The mystics have been telling us about it for years. And science is now at a point where they're starting to reveal that the mystics might not have just been full of wishful thinking, that there are actual unknowns, mysteries, and mechanisms by which we could start to understand that this deeper interconnection is not just a hypothesis or a life would be better or we would be better as if we lived as if it were true. Oh crap, it might actually be true. is what I'm getting at. Jesus wrote that we are all condemned spiritually to how the least among us are living. I don't think that was hyperbole or if you live like this is true, you'll be a better human. I think we are also deeply interconnected. If you stopped right now and really thought about the plight of the children in Gaza or Ukraine, or the ridiculous percentage of our own brothers and sisters and siblings held in prisons in this country, and the abuse that you know they undergo every day, I want you to recognize that that feeling tone that you could generate in your chest right now by thinking about that is always there. And it's going to stay there until we address those injustices. And it is because we are deeply, instantaneously, all interconnected to each other. And that's what I was trying to get at with this cracking open of this egg of certainty about how your individualness is somehow protected from all that. It is not protected. There are more cells in your body with non-human DNA than with human DNA every day. That's what it means to own a gut biome. And every day, those cells are leaving your body and coming in from the outside world. And every single one of those cells is capable of light transmission between themselves and the cells in your body. The way the outside world is affecting you deeply every day. And I'm asking you to tune into it instead of trying to keep tuning it out. Because tuning it out is going to keep us where we've been. It's going to keep us in a state of disconnection and denial that God is doing all right however we're doing. It's a favorite line of mine from Stephen Jenkinson, that God is all right however we're doing. God is doing exactly how we're doing. And when we tune in to the unity underlying all of it, and we realize just how bad some of us have it, we know how bad we're doing, and we know how bad God is doing right now. We know how deep the well of sorrow goes. And that's what I'm trying to get at. This is not a metaphor, folks. The reason I went on and on last week is because I'm not trying to sell you a new metaphor for understanding things. I'm trying to tell you that the metaphors are pointing at this truth of our deep interconnection with each other, of the inextricableness of your happiness from your neighbor's happiness, including those whom you would label enemy. Is that more clear? All right. I'll try and make sure the center stays at the center. So last week we got quantum physics. This week you get Karl Marx. Right? Maybe only I love saying that. I don't think I'm the only one, but you don't have to raise your hands. Can I get the next slide, Frank? Oh, Keith, Andrea, there we go. So we did interdependence last week. This week is equity. I started to describe this graphic to my wife in the car on the way here, and she said, oh, that one, I know that one. Like, I work in education, and they show it all the time, ad nauseum. All right, so if this is the Captain Obvious version, and it is, let's dig a little deeper. I think there is some prophetic voice in here that is easy to overlook, but that we need in this moment. So, the UUA's description of equity sounds like this. Equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. It's good, and it's pointed in the right direction, but it's not enough, folks. There are two big reasons on my heart right now about why it's not enough. There are no rights without responsibilities. There are no rights without responsibilities. And I don't think this does enough to say what responsibilities we have to build a society and a world where people can exercise this right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. I don't think we say enough about what it means to all of us to enable that for each other. What do we owe each other in that endeavor, in that struggle? My second one is that while I'm very glad that we are covenanting to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities, I get concerned that too many people, when they hear the word community in that sentence, stop it at the edge of these walls here. I'm going to hypothesize to you that the vast majority of the people who need the true exercise of these rights extended to them are not sitting in the pew next to you today. So, I think we need this in a yes and way. In a yes, this is a good starting point, and we have to take it to its illogical, ridiculous conclusion. And I use those words quite intentionally. We have to stretch it beyond the banal, this version seems okay to me because it doesn't threaten anything that I care about, want, or love, to a version where it threatens everything you love, everything you've been taught to value, to bring the true fruition of your values into being for everyone. You see how it links back to this interdependence thing that we're talking about, right? Because the illusion that we can make this community healthy without all communities being healthy is just that. It's just an illusion. But it's daunting, isn't it, to think of that? It's demoralizing in some ways to think, oh man, I'm barely finding it in myself to figure out how to heal my own woundedness and the woundedness in my family and in this small community. And now, Eric, you've said that that's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough just to heal our small wounds. We have to heal all the wounds. We have to heal all the wounds. And there are so many of them out there that you can't even think about it deeply without feeling that wrench in your gut. It is truly and deeply tragic, the ways that we hurt each other. Like you, I spend most of my days with my emotional blinders on, just so I don't have to feel it. But finding a way to feel it, to acknowledge the deep importance of all that suffering that we impose on each other. This is not a kumbaya thing. Life will continue to challenge us even if we're all united. There will still be tragedies and hardships to overcome. But that doesn't change the reality that right now we are our own worst enemy as a species in a way that is insane. We do so much more damage to each other than happens through natural disaster or real scarcity of food. How do we stop that? I'm going to share a passage with you this morning from Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth. I think that what he starts talking about in this reading, fear, greed, and the desire for power, are often and somewhat rightly perceived as one of the main things that blocks us from getting to a place of equity. Fear, greed, and the desire for power are the psychological motivating forces not only behind warfare and violence between nations, tribes, religions, and ideologies, but also the cause of incessant conflict in personal relationships. They bring about a distortion of your perception of other people and yourself. Through them, you misinterpret every situation, leading to misguided action designed to rid you of fear and satisfy your need for more, a bottomless hole that can never be filled. It is important to realize, however, that fear, greed, and the desire for power are not the dysfunction that we are speaking of, but are themselves created by the dysfunction, which is a deep-seated collective delusion that lies within the mind of each human being. A number of spiritual teachings tell us to let go of fear and desire, but those spiritual practices are usually unsuccessful. They haven't gone to the root of the dysfunction. Fear, greed, and the desire for power are not the ultimate causal factors. Trying to become a good or better human being sounds like a commendable and high-minded thing to do, yet it is an endeavor you cannot ultimately succeed in unless there is a shift in consciousness. This is because it is still part of the same dysfunction, a more subtle and rarefied form of the desire for more and a strengthening of one's conceptual identity, one's self-image. You do not become good by trying to be good, but by finding the goodness that is already within you and allowing that goodness to emerge. But it can only emerge if something fundamental changes in your state of consciousness. The history of communism, originally inspired by noble ideals, clearly illustrates what happens when people attempt to change external reality and create a new earth without any prior change in their inner reality, their state of consciousness. They make plans without taking into account the blueprint for dysfunction that every human being carries within, the ego. So my starting with Karl Marx this morning made me think of this passage from Eckhart Tolle, and now I will try to recenter this on our main concern of equity. What's missing from this image are a couple things. What if that fence was taller and there was only one knothole for people to look through? That's the concept of scarcity. And the concept of scarcity is one of the main things that drives action against equity. There's not enough fence for everybody to watch the ball game. So we have to pick who gets to watch and who doesn't get to watch. Now, I will propose to you that technologically, it's been at least 75 years since we've had the productive capacity to make sure that we had food, housing, healthcare, education, clothing for every human being on the planet. We've had that technological capacity for almost 100 years, some would argue a little longer. We are not missing capacity. We are missing wisdom and choice. So we have what Noam Chomsky would call today manufactured scarcity. So if there's only one knothole in the fence, or the fence isn't long enough to accommodate everyone, then we have another problem besides just who gets the right height box. Also not shown in the figure, who has to make the boxes. And are they at the box factory making the boxes while everyone else is at the ball game? When we zoom out of this little vignette and think about it as an entire functioning ecology, some of the deep responsibilities and rights tensions start to show up. The things that make equity work hard to do. But we've known for a long time the ideal that we're struggling toward. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Now, obviously, I'm going to update this with two simple word changes. From each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. Because we can't do this with the patriarchy intact. So we'll replace his with their. Now, although this phrase originally was popularized by Marx, variants of the slogan appeared in the writings of Etienne Cabet, Louis Blanc, and other early European socialists. And I want to talk about a culture which values people for what they contribute and not for who they are. Marx had another concept that only Marx nerds care about, and it was called the species being. Marx said that the species being of each individual human is to use their creative energy as a productive force in the world that they live in. It was one of the reasons that he thought that industrial labor was dehumanizing, because these people's creative energy was burned up running a machine and a program of someone else's design, instead of expressing their own creative capacity in a problem-solving way in the world for the benefit of themselves and their community. But he thought that the ultimate calling of each of us was to be able to express that outflow of creative energy from us into the universe. To fish and bring home fish to feed the family in the village. To go and chop down a tree to build a hut for the newly married couple in your community. That's why he wrote that he wanted to be able to fish in the morning and chop wood in the day and lay bricks in the afternoon and philosophize around the fire at night. He thought it was an inhumane restriction on human creativity to be forced to stand for 12 or 14 or 16 hours a day doing someone else's bidding. And as we know, industrial labor was just another version of the kinds of slavery that have existed in this country and throughout the world, where people were forced to do the bidding of others. Through violence, through the threat of violence, through the withholding of food and sustenance and safety and shelter. Forced to do the bidding of others for their benefit. We see it alive and well in the oligarchic political culture that we live in today. This idea that other people should have to do the work you think they should do so that you get to enjoy your position of privilege. Marx looked at this and said, I don't think that that's sustainable for human beings. And I think he was right. That it is not sustainable for human beings. This level of wealth disparity, this level of hierarchy is not sustainable for human beings. We're just not that different from each other. The best among us are just not that much better than the worst among us, despite what you've been told. Despite what you'd like to believe about yourself. The main thing that separates you from someone languishing in prison right now is fate and circumstance, not the superior quality of your self. It took me an excruciating vision quest night to realize that truth. So I know how uncomfortable it is. But it is true. You think that others break and bend where you would stand strong. This is a lie you tell yourself. It is part of the ego thing that Eckhart Tolle was talking about. A desire to maintain a belief about the superiority of yourself or your character compared to others. It's all ego, friends. You've heard this phrase, "there but by the grace of God." And you have dismissed it for some good reasons. But there is a deep truth to it. Destitution causes desperation. And desperate people will do almost anything. So what stands between us and the equity we long for? A world where the tall man takes a break from the game to build some new crates for his shorter brethren. We have to stop centering ourselves. We have to stop making up new identities that hold us superior to others. We have to show up for each other first. For each other first. And that is hard to do. Amen.
We take an offering each week to sustain this spiritual home and to support the work of our fellowship. If you're visiting, we invite you to fill out a visitor card, which you can put in the plate or return to the visitor table in the back. For offertory music we have, "They'll Know We Are Christians by Our Love," written by Peter Schultz, performed by Gene Olson. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Sometimes we're called to add our voices to the chorus. Sometimes we're called to speak aloud the message resonating in our hearts. If you're called to reflect on today's service or express a gratitude, please raise your hand for the microphone.
Hi, I'm Marcia. You're talking about responding to the news this week, which certainly resonates with me. And I received a prayer this week from my brother to read before you see the news. And it's, "My God, the soul you have placed in me is pure and vulnerable. I am afraid that looking at today's news will be painful. Encircle me in a robe of light so that I can witness the wounds of the world without being wounded myself. Let me learn what I need to know in order to be of greatest use without being overwhelmed by despair. I feel your protective light now as I open myself to the world's sufferings and the world's joys. Amen."
Thank you, Marcia. Pam, can I get you to bring me the announcement cards up front? Pam or Woody? Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
I'm Bill. I'm once again breaking my promise to myself. I said I wouldn't say anything today. But you know, as you preached, and I'm glad you did those clarifications from last week. Molly and I were out of town, so we listened to the sermon on the podcast, and we had some of those questions, and we're glad that you straightened that out. But in terms of today, when you talked about these things are not the dysfunction, but they are symptoms of the dysfunction, I kept wanting to say, what is the dysfunction? And so finally you said it. It is the ego. Now, it seemed like that every time you referred to the ego, it was in a pejorative way. It's hard for me to believe that something that is so intrinsic to the human condition of all of us is altogether evil.
I will make a note to do a separate sermon on that. What I will say is that for many of you, you think of Freud's definition of ego when I use the word. And I'm using Eckhart Tolle's definition, which is quite different. So that's the main disconnect I think we're having here, is a language one. But if you haven't read Eckhart Tolle, then you are looking at me thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. And that deserves explication. Thank you, Bill.
Hi, I'm Judy Mayo. When we're talking about equity, I'm reminded of some of the foreign exchange students we hosted, and in particular a girl from Uzbekistan, and she was 15, and every other word for her was, I have to do this, I have to do this. She had no choice. She had to get married by the time she was 18. She had to have a baby by the time she was 19. There was on and on and on about what she had to do. And it reminds you that equity is a strange thing. She thought that was just fine until she met me. And then she had a problem. But I don't know, you have to think about equity in a lot of different lights, I think. And my message to her was, if that's what you choose to do, that's fine, but it's your choice. So, I don't know, does that help equity?
Hi, I'm Rod. As I looked at the slide on equity, the thing that I kept going back to is why these three and maybe so many other have to stand on a crate to look at a ball game, or look through a hole to look at a ball game, and just the inequity and so many things that have happened in our world that those of us are, or a lot of us are priced out of, and sports is one of those that I'm losing an awful lot of interest in because of the the big business built around it. So.
Something that kept coming up for me looking at the picture. Oh, hi, I'm Courtney. Sorry,
Courtney.
Thank you. As I was looking at the picture, the thing that kept coming up for me was not the boxes, but the fence. The issue is not the height of the people or the boxes that they have to stand on. The problem is the fence. If we eliminate the fence, everybody can see just fine. But you have to remove yourself and address the ego and step back to be able to see the system. And systems theory teaches us that when we correctly identify the problem, we solve the problem. But if we implement solutions for a symptom, we make more problems. So like you were talking about with the boxes, who's going to build the boxes? Where's the lumber coming from? How are we putting this together? And we're just moving the problem down the line because we didn't address the fence.
Hi, I'm Lionel. Since we're all talking about the equity cartoon, those baseball players, it's their labor, it's their business. People paid to see them. So the people on the fence are watching them perform for free, basically. But it's a simple cartoon. We shouldn't be thinking about it that deeply.
Thank you.
Rob, you still want the mic?
What Rod said. As I was looking at the slide, I was thinking about the people in the park. And we have these three people outside the fence, as Courtney was pointing out. Yeah, to take it a level deeper, we need to figure out how to make things so that the three people who are standing outside can go inside and enjoy the game.
Amen.
I think for me, it all sounds great as far as finding equity, but there's more of it occurring today than I've ever, inequity occurring more today than I've ever known in my lifetime. And it's like, where do you start? It's just overwhelming. And again, I try to stay out of the media and not follow it, but it's like one more thing. Like last night I saw that they're now going to do away with regulations of allowing handicap accessibility to federal buildings. So when they build new buildings, it's not going to be required. So it's just constant. I mean, it's against so many communities, and it's just like, it's overwhelming. I mean, I know what we're striving for, but this is just so huge.
Zach?
Hi, I'm Zach. I just made an association up here while you were speaking about, I don't know, I've heard it said that healing is a nonlinear process, and so is equity for me in so many different ways. You know, the way that it comes up to address those disparities that seem totally overwhelming, it's different in every single instant. So I would just say, like, starting now and then using that as a transformative tool to heal whatever it is that you're going through, because you really do start to see things differently when you're focusing on other people, and you know, your own trauma becomes sort of, I don't know, at least for me, in my own social justice work, I have seen so many different parts that I've been struggling with in my own life just totally evaporate as soon as I started focusing on what it is that we can do to help each other out.
I just want to say something that Courtney said over again. When our analysis is wrong and we focus on symptoms, our solutions create more problems. I like to call them negative unintended consequences. But when our analysis is right and we go to the heart of it, which is, I think, what made people like Gandhi and MLK exceptional, was that they didn't get distracted by symptom A, B, or C. They were like, no, that's the heart of it. And it's what I'm trying to get at with the Eckhart Tolle stuff about ego and identity. If we get at the heart of it, then the healing works its way outward. and the symptoms that were bothering you get ameliorated without you numbing or doping or creating more problems and then being like, why do I have more problems? And it's like, well, because you have to solve the root thing, or else the symptoms just proliferate. And I'm not claiming to have the answers to this, but I do feel like centering the fact that that is our work to do together in community is, to me, what this 8-part series is about. We're going to keep circling until we've got a better combined sense of what it is that our work is that we're called to do. And we're doing that together. I'm not doing it for you or to you. We're doing it together in conversation. So thank you for showing up to this conversation today. I'm deeply grateful. Our second hymn is How Could Anyone? It is number 1053 in the teal hymnal. Lyrics will be projected. Please rise in body or spirit as you're able. Gene, are we doing it twice through? Is that right? That's correct. We're doing it twice through, but I forgot to write it down. I don't think that Bill knows that my wish for him is for him to make the opposite promise every week. I promise to say whatever's on my heart when Eric passes the mic. That's the promise I want from Bill. Thank you, Bill. All right, it's announcement time, folks. There's only a few this morning. We will have our next joining ceremony, and we will return to having our monthly potlucks the first weekend in August 3rd. We will have that. That is next weekend. Is that right? Man. Raise your hand as this summer's flying by for you. Woo! It's like a slip and slide out there. Wah! Anyway, summer's coming quick. Next month, next Sunday, we will have a potluck after church. Next Sunday, we will have a joining ceremony. Please sign up for the joining ceremony if you are interested, willing, and ready to join this congregation. The music team announcement. One, if you're interested in joining the San Gabriel Choir, there will be an information section on August 10th, after church, I'm assuming, on August 10th. We are seeking, the music program led by Mel is seeking pianists, instrumentalists for Sunday service. If you're interested, see Mel or email choir@sangabrieluu.org. I will also say this, and I just decided this in the last day or two. If you know people in the congregation who have a music background, I really want to get all the music interested, music engaged, and music literate folks in the congregation together for kind of a big powwow meeting about how we want to do music, what we aspire to. I had someone in all kindness and sincerity say, the music feels a bit like I'm at my grandma's church. And I know that I've heard from many of you who are grandparents a desire for the church to be welcoming to people younger, to have younger people, middle-aged people, and younger families in the church. So, this to me is a moment where we're being invited by conflict to a culture shift. And I want everybody who cares about it to be in the room for that. We're going to try and do that early in September. So just hold a place if you're one of the people who loves and cares about the music in this congregation to try and make time to participate in that with us. I'm not doing this work alone, folks. We're all doing it together, or it's not happening at all. All right, Joey, it's affirmation time.
As we prepare to return to the world, we remind ourselves that our affirmation to carry out our work from this place to every corner of our lives. Please join me in the call and response. Love is the doctrine of this church.
We are here to love.
The quest of truth is its sacrament.
We are here to learn.
Service is its prayer.
We are here to care for others.
To dwell together in peace.
We are here to live in peace.
To seek knowledge in freedom.
We are here to honor our differences.
To serve humanity in fellowship.
We are all connected in spirit.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine.
We are here to grow.
Thus we do covenant with one another.
This we promise to do together.
Please join me in reciting the words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame to remind us love is the center. As we explore and rest, engage and heal, love remains the center. When all we can see is cold ashes, love remains.
May you find the courage to love yourself and to love others, even those who do harm, even those who you call enemy. And through that love, may you and they find healing. May you and they find justice. May you and they remember that you are siblings, brothers, sisters. Go in peace, and may it be so.